Yeah, welcome back, everybody. So I always think that meditation is full of paradoxes, seemingly contradictory and even incompatible experiences. And I think it's one of the things I really love about it, actually. On the one hand, just simply put, you've got calmness, stillness, tranquility, sitting like a mountain. And on the other hand, you've got a process of freeing of energy and vitality. And there's a whole teaching in Buddhism about energy release that sort of talks from that place, really. The Pali word, not that I'm going to use any more Pali words, more than I have to, is priti, P-R-I-T-I, with a thingy over somewhere in one of those. And basically it means rapture, uplift, inspiration, freeing of energy. And I think that that's partly what I wanted to for us to focus on, because the theme is energy. And I think it can be interesting to approach this whole thing of energy release, rapture, in terms of the short term and the long term. So the short term is that you sit down and something happens. You go, ooh, you get a little shake or you get a little buzz. I mentioned, actually, I know at least one of you was here on Tuesday, but I'll mention it again. I was chairman of Glasgow Centre for a while way back, and they were all young men. And when they got into meditation, they all started doing this. It was this sort of their expression of energy release. And the floor would really bounce. And at one point we had a retreat which people from Holland, which I was also involved with, and people from Scotland came together. And the people from Holland just complained all the time. Why don't they stay still like this the whole time? The Dutch were very. So I mention it because if it does happen, don't be disconcerted or just get used to it. It's part of the process, and it has different ways of working on you. You know, it can be very interestingly releasing all kinds of knottedness and contraction within your body mind, and it just sort of releases without even you knowing what it was, which is quite interesting. You just sort of all of a sudden feel a bit freer. Well, what was that? Well, never mind. I feel freer. So there are different ways that this can manifest in an actual meditation. There could be little shudders or jumping, jerking, a buzz, or it can be much more subtle, where some people who aren't prone to sort of more dramatic expressions of this might think they're missing out, but actually it can just be quite subtle, actually, just a wave of pleasure, for example. Just like that. And so this is all part of what can happen in one meditation, but the longer term is that it could be a phase of one's life, which how long that is very much an individual matter. But it can be that over a period of time, energy is releasing. Energy that had been blocked and clogged and contracted, held, stultified. That's the end of the dictionary definition. It just loosens, and as it loosens, there's something happens. You feel one of the things that happened when I first got involved was all my peers and I just started laughing. I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, we just couldn't stop laughing. We'd be on retreat. We're all supposed to be sitting there quietly, and someone would start, and then the whole room would just set off. And some people would do it deliberately, which was a bit naughty, I think, just to get everyone going. And it's that was part of the process, actually. You could actually feel things loosening and freeing in the laughter. It seemed quite important, and it still does. I mean, I still see it occasionally, you know. So just to mention different ways of that. So it's okay to laugh in meditation. Just say that. So there's just to go back for a moment to the paradox of meditation, and I wanted to, in a way, relate to something from my history. When I was 19, 20 years old, I went to Japan, to Kyoto, to practice Zen. I'd read a book. Well, I'd read a paragraph in the book. Wasn't reading much at the time. And so I went there. And one of the first days that I was in Kyoto, I was in the main park, very Japanese, a little bridge, and some rocks. And I was just watching people out from the park also onto the main. There's a very beautiful ancient bridge in Kyoto, just watching people. And I was there for hours, just watching. And I got a very, very clear sense of the difference between most people and the monks and the nuns. And it was really striking. So the monks and nuns would be very self-contained, and quiet and still. And at the same time, there was an immense feeling of power and strength there. And that was that immediate dichotomy that I was aware of for the first time. I'd never actually seen that anywhere before. I mean, I'd been in Sri Lanka and other places, Thailand. I'd never seen that with the monks and nuns there. But in Japan, they were meditating. They were meditating a lot. And so that, I think, was why they were combining, coalescing the sort of the stillness and the energy and the power. And they weren't sort of jumping up and down, they weren't, but there was just this energy that was there, very tangible. And everyone else just seemed to be frittering energy, very scattered, in contrast. And there's no judgment there, it was just an observation. And there was another contrast that maybe does seem slightly more of a judging, but I don't mean it this way, that with the monks and the nuns, there was definitely a sense of depth and profundity. I mean, not that I had much at that point, but I could recognize it in others, I think. Whereas everyone else, they seemed much more on the surface. And there was this, this contrast between depth and profundity and being on the surface. And for me, that kind of was an initial window or portal into seeing this combination of energy and stillness, depth, and engaging in the world. So there are, I think that when you take up meditation, one of the phases is clearing stuff. Actually, that can be quite literal. One of the guys who just moved into the community, he's taken to clearing the 17,000 photos on his phone. Selfies, yes. And for him, this is part of the process of clearing. It has a very cluttered phone, so he wanted to clear. And I think that there's different ways of approaching this phase in one's life of clearing. But I do think that clearing is an important part of the process of energy release, because you have somehow I'm not talking about phones here anymore, but that when you have unfinished business, for example, or unfinished preoccupations, or continuous obsessions that just eat away at you, they tie up your energy. And when you start consciously taking on clearing, they are part of that process. Yeah. And it's very personal. What is it that one needs to clear? You know, what kind of obsessions, that one has, do you need to clear? And it becomes part of the process of growth and development to let go of those things. It might include more deeper trauma type things, or it might be actually just memories that you just keep going over and over, which don't have any charge, particularly emotional charge. You just need to stop going to that place and just going around and around. I had the same kind of fantasies going on for 5 years or more, probably. And it was rubbish. It had nothing to do with my life. I picked it up from a film, probably Desert Rats or something like that. And before most of your time. And somehow my mind just got caught up, and I had to consciously decide no more Desert Rats, just clear it. So I'm just using this as examples, things that you decide to clear, make space. And then what happens is energy gets released and opened up. And there's a very obvious way that this can manifest is in the experience of your body. I've noticed it with others, and I've talked and in myself, that when you meditate and you start to get energy releases and you're clearing in your life, things happen in your body. There are changes in your body. I was talking with someone the other week about how they started to get clicks in their chest, and their chest opened. They were just more open. So rather like that. And a sort of uplift is part of this process where energy starts to move up your back, and you can actually seem to be growing. I gave the example the other day of how when I moved to Vajradaka Retreat Centre, I went to the medical centre to check in, and they measured me, and I was 6'3", and I'd had quite a difficult time before that, And then a year later, I went in for something. She measured me, and I was 6'4". And you're like, no, how's that possible? And I said, oh, it's meditation. And then she would tease me. I'd come in, I'd be 6'3", and say, you're not doing enough meditation. This is the nurse. So there can be a tangible personal experience of your body changing, opening, stretching, and feeling of expansiveness in this process of energy release. And you might find yourself laughing, all kinds of things. Yeah. So it's quite useful to get the sense that meditation can be at the core of this process of clearing. It's an initiator of this process of energy release when you come to do it regularly, and when you get used to it. So I'm just going to open it up for a moment. You might want to change something on this gadget microphone. See if there are any thing. Thank you. Any observations, thoughts, questions around that whole topic? Yes.
Yeah, it's not so much a question, but it really resonated with me what you talked about in terms of energy coming out, and it's almost needing to find other avenues to be used. And for me personally, it was a lot of it went into moving my body a lot more. It is interesting to hear that meditation potentially was the catalyst for it, because in hindsight, maybe I realize it now, but I wasn't thinking starting meditation with this in mind.
Right.
But it really, that energy that comes out of all the processes seems to have opened up in the way that it allows me to do so many different things with my body now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, for me, I feel over the last few years, I've really noticed I found it hard to express myself and be articulate. And just becoming aware of that and even meditating on that has helped me to be able to be a bit more expressive, even to talk to you now in front of everyone. That I wouldn't be able to do that a few years ago. So working on that through meditation has really released that sort of energy.
Thank you. Can I say a word about that generally? I think that as you meditate, you start to recognize certain feelings, qualities, and the contrasts. And part of that is being articulate about what they are. So that's excitement, and that's dissipating. This is enthusiasm. That's channeling. They're both energetic, but they're different. And you start to get a distinction between similar kinds of qualities over time. And that's part of that process of being able to find the words. And I think that it's good to just say the word and not feel that you're tied to it. You can then say, no, actually, it's not that word. It's not that description. It's more this. And so that the speaking about your experience isn't hard and fast and definitive. It's actually part of your process of going, well, that fits and that doesn't fit. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's good. That's very good. Yes.
I think when you talked about the uplift or the inspiration at the beginning of your talk, I definitely identify with that feeling. Like sometimes when you said it can be just as simple as like a pleasurable feeling in the middle of a meditation, that's something that I think drew me back to meditation, because when I first experienced that, I was like, oh wow, that was really quite nice. I want to experience that some more. And then when you talked about kind of like growing or like posture changing through meditation, I think I've observed that in myself too, because I don't know, I just carry a lot of stress on my shoulders. I sit at a desk, all day to work, and on the day when I meditate in the morning, not every time I meditate, but sometimes I can just feel like my shoulders just relax and the tension go out of my shoulders. And then it's just so much nicer when I sit down at my desk or something, or I get into work. And then that day, it's just like I can just feel my postures better. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Great, thank you. Any other thoughts?
Slightly not sure about that question, but since you've been encouraged speaking and not being 100% sure, then I was wondering about just energy. I suppose it's a natural thing for energy to rise, to go upwards. But why is that? Or I'm not sure, but why?
No, it's not. I'm not sure. There's just another dimension.
Okay, so why can you just talk about the nature of energy, if you can?
Yeah, well, I've got something to say.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that I use the word dimension there. So you have the up-down dimension, which is quite important. Settles, uplift, arising, inspiration, aspiration. And then you have the, as it were, the outward dimension where energy radiates. And so you have, as it were, an energy field of your body, mind. And as your energy frees up, it expands and becomes lighter. Yeah. So there is a way in which one can get used to both dimensions. And sometimes you can actually feel yourself as quite contracted, tight, and everything's pulled in. Yeah. And then as you get into the meditation, or as you get into metta, kindness or something changes, and there's an expansiveness there. There's not so much of a boundary or a defense protecting you from others. You become more open, and then that dimension of energy starts to be experienced. So it's not just up and down.
Okay.
In other words, that's a start, isn't it? You first.
My question's a bit weird, and possibly very female. You talked about young men like jerking when they meditate, and I had a friend who I suggested went on a meditation course, and he came back, and then we meditated together, and he was jerking, and I was like, what is he doing? I didn't want to say anything. Well, I didn't want to say, I was just like, okay. Carry on sitting there quietly. Yeah. But can you say a bit more? Because it just seemed very mad to me. So why does that happen? Why young men in particular? I'm sorry if this is going to initiate a conversation on testosterone or something.
Yeah, or maybe just sexuality generally. I think that there might be a sexual element to it, but with the Scottish guys, it was very particular. They were all member of very violent gangs, and there was a lot of tension. They used to walk around with sabres. I'm not kidding. We're talking about Glasgow in the 70s. Very early 70s, very dangerous place. And there was a lot of pent-up tension in all of them. They had scars, all kinds of things. And I think that process for them was a release of aggression and fear. It was a clearing of fear. They became clearly more fearless, actually. because they were like, they might seem fearless as they were running down the street with a saber or a machete or something like that, but actually there was a lot of fear there. So emotionally, in that context, I think that the emotions were released that were very tight. Yes.
I was quite interested in terms of growing taller when you mentioned that about meditation. That hasn't happened to me yet.
Maybe you're already tall enough.
Don't know about that. So my question is more around how to channel more of this letting go energy. So I think Meta's really helped me in terms of anxiety and just also trying to not be so tough on myself. But I still feel, especially the last year, a few things have happened where, I think my anxiety's kind of been heightened, and I think I just need to let go a little bit more and also just let life happen. So maybe it's a silly question, but how do you channel more of that, letting go kind of, and not feeling like the controlling energy, I guess, in a way, worrying energy?
I think I'm going to come to this in an unexpected way, because one can talk about qigong, tai chi, and all of those kinds of things, but I think there are different ways that one could approach this, but our way, and especially when you're starting or you're in the first years of meditation, there's a relationship between self-consciousness and self-consciousness. So self-consciousness is when you see yourself through others' eyes. So you don't just experience how you are in yourself, which is the real self-consciousness. Being self-conscious in that sense is you're always thinking, what do they think of me? And that creates a sort of a lot of tension and anxiety. Will they judge me? What do they think of me? Will they think I'm too short, too tall, to this or to that? It creates all kinds of tensions. When you come more into just being aware in yourself and contained within that, and contained in a positive sense, I don't mean tight, held way, then actually there's much less tension. So it's a slightly different way of approaching that. But I do think that it's useful to think about in the early years. Is my self-consciousness referring through others or to my own experience? And I think that there can be a shift and from seeing oneself through others' eyes to just being in oneself. So let's say, for example, very simple example, I saw myself as a kind and friendly person, but initially I saw myself in that way, in that self-conscious way through others' eyes. They saw me like that. And then at a certain point, there was a shift, and I came into the fact that I was a kind of friendly person, and it was a completely different experience, actually. And much more confident. I didn't have to worry about whether other people thought I was friendly or not friendly or anything like that. So not maybe the way you think I was going to answer it. But.
No, I actually think that's really helpful. Kind of even taking a step back, and even when you're worrying about something and you have anxiety about something, where is that coming from?
Yes.
And actually how much of that is coming from you, and how much of that is maybe outside pressure. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Right, what I thought we'd do is that we'd finish with a little meditation. So, if you'd just like to set yourselves up comfortably, stable. arriving into a sense of yourself, how you are, just as you are, without letting go of any expectations or shoulds. And then a period of priming. So we're going to do a mini metabhavna, micro metabhavna, loving kindness. So just bring that to mind, that you're going to engage with the qualities of wishing and caring for others' welfare and your own welfare together. And looking for the yes to that. Am I up for it? Now bringing awareness into the sense of your back, first of all. So now just being aware of your back in terms of this up-down dimension as the breath comes in, feeling any stretch and uplift, and on the out-breath, any settling and relaxing. Just connecting with that rhythm in your back and the breath. Now, asking yourself gently and quietly at the back of your mind, where in my body needs care and attention? It's being open to the question. And then if there's a clear area, then bringing awareness to that area and imaginatively imagine your hands expressing kindness and care, and warmth, touching or holding that area and expressing kindness into that area. Maybe something, an area that's contracted, giving it space to open. You let go of the image of the hands, but stay with the feeling of the care for that area. And then maybe asking yourself the question, is there anything that I need to do for this area? And just be open to an answer. And then just asking the question again and being open to a different area of your body. Is there any area that needs care on any level? And then bringing attention to it with care, kindness, love. And imaginatively feeling that kindness expressed within you. And relaxing into it. And if there is pain or difficulty in the memory, just giving yourself space from that. So there might be something that is quite difficult to stay with. Just let it, as it were, go outward a bit from you. So it's not so close or so central. But you can, as it were, imaginatively still care and feel care for that, even though it's out a bit from you. And now coming back to the awareness of the breath coming in and going out, but awareness in the heart, chest area now. So on the in-breath, you get a sense of opening of the heart, chest area and your care. And on the out-breath, that care, as it were, flowing out with the breath to all of us sitting here in the room with you. still being aware of the breath coming in and out of the heart chest area. Just asking yourself now, just dropping the question in, is there anyone who I would like to or could be more caring to right now? And if anyone comes to mind, just keep them in mind and let the care, as it were, flow to them and the sense of them. Letting the sense of that person fade away, coming back into the heart chest area, and just being open to the quality, the potential for care and kindness, which could be felt for anyone. And then on the out breath, just having the sense of care radiating out to all beings in all the directions of space. And on the in-breath, an openness and the qualities of care. And broadening, but staying connected with how you are. Just taking it in, getting used to it. And just being with it for a while, absorbing it. And when you're ready, opening your eyes and taking in the room in a sort of wide angle kind of way, relaxed, without any particular focus on anything.